Okay guys, today we're going to talk about parasitic draw, amps and milliamps, and how to read them on your multimeter. Parasitic draw is in the name, parasite. A parasite basically is a device on your motorcycle that is draining power while the key is in the off position. This here is an illustration of your multimeter. Now, anything before the decimal is an amp. Anything after the decimal is a milliamp. Now, there are 1,000 milliamps in 1 amp. So basically, if you have 900 milliamps, 900 milliamps, you have 0.900 amps. If you have 90 milliamps, you have 0.090 amps. If you have 9 milliamps, you have 0.009 amps. On your multimeter, just put it in the off position, you have different functions. Now today we're only going to be talking about milliamp DC and regular 10 amp DC. Now, when you're going to measure a parasitic draw on any battery, you're going to start out in the highest position. You're going to go with DC 10 amps because there is a fuse inside of this multimeter, and if the current's too high and you have it on milliamps, it'll blow the fuse. So you want to start out with DC 10 amps. Now you're going to put your red lead over here where it says DC 10 amps, and you're going to keep your black lead here. Now to measure parasitic draw, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to turn the motorcycle to the off position. So you're going to turn the ignition to the off position. Then you're going to go to the battery and you're going to go up to the negative terminal. You're going to disconnect the negative lead from the negative terminal. Okay, so these two are disconnected. Now what you're going to do after that is you're going to get your multimeter. You're going to put it on DC 10 amp. Here, turn it to DC 10 amp like we have here. You're going to put the lead, red lead, on DC 10 amp, which is down here. You're going to leave the black lead here. Alright, so you're going to take this red lead and you're going to actually connect it to the negative lead cable right here. So the red lead is going to go to the cable. The black lead over here is going to go all the way to the negative terminal. Now basically that's going to complete the circuit. Now after you complete the circuit, you're going to get a readout here, which will be here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to demonstrate this on the actual motorcycle. Alright, have the multimeter here, have the battery. Now what I've done is I've connected this red lead to the negative lead of the battery. So you can see that negative lead going back into the bike. I have this connected to this lead. Now I have other things connected to it too because these are all connected on my negative terminal. So I got everything. I want to make sure I get the most or the best reading that I can. So I have a negative here, and then that's the main. All of those are connected at one point. So what you're going to do is you're going to connect the red to the negative lead cable, and then you're going to go over here to the terminal, and you're going to take this negative lead that's coming from the multimeter, and you're going to put that in this negative terminal. Now you got everything set up. You go over to your multimeter, you turn it on. Now I got this thing on DC 10 amp. I got the red lead in the DC 10 amp. Now you see here it's basically settling. All right, so it's jumping from 11 to 13, so we're going to go with 12. So basically, my parasitic draw from the battery while the key is in the off position is 0.012, so 0.012 amps. That is how much is being drained off of my battery while the key is in the off position. Now remember, I said that this is 0.012 amps. If you want to know the milliamps, you switch it to milliamps. So now you see it's still bouncing between 11 and 13, so that's 12 milliamps. So in milliamps, it's pulling 12 milliamps from the battery with the key in the off position. Now I'm back to the computer. In my service manual, it tells me that the battery current leak should be under 3 milliamps. So I'm at 12, so I'm over the 3 milliamp that the service manual states. So how do we find out what is actually draining the battery over the 3 milliamps? Okay, so we're back at the bike. We're on the milliamp setting. Now to find out what is actually draining your battery over that 3 milliamps that the service manual is telling you, you're going to come in here and you're going to start pulling fuses. So I have all my fuses named. So this fuse right here is going to the amp, okay, because I have a radio system on my bike. So look, this is for the amp. So if we pull this, now remember, that's where it's at. If we pull this and we go back up here, we see a dramatic change. And you see now it's basically at that 3 milliamp draw. So now we know what's actually drawing the power from my bike. Now let's put this back in. Now to me, 12 milliamps isn't excessive. We're going to do some math, and I'm going to show you how do you know how long your bike can sit with the key in the off position before your battery actually drains below 12 volts. Okay, the first thing you need to know is the specs for your battery. Over here, this is my battery, and this is the specs for my battery. Now, the amp hours of my battery is 10 amp hours. The cold cranking amps is 180 amps, and the voltage is a 12 volt battery. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to take your parasitic draw. You're going to take your parasitic draw here. All right. Now, the parasitic draw we had was 12. It was 0.012 amps. Okay. So you're going to take 12.0 amps, and you're going to take 1 day, which is 24 hours. You're going to multiply the two. So you're going to multiply 0.012 times 24. You're going to get 0.288. Now the 0.288 is your discharge per day. So that's how much the parasitic draw is discharging your battery per day, 0.288. Now you're going to take that 0.288, you're going to divide it by 10. The reason you're dividing it by 10 is because of your amp hours over here. So you're going to do 10 amp hours divided by 0.288. You're going to get 34.7. Now, the 34.7 is, that's the days until your battery is completely drained. When I say completely drained, it's not drained to the point that it's dead. It's just, it's dropped below 12 volts basically. So you got basically a month and 3 days before your battery has drained or dropped below 12 volts. So basically this calculation will tell you how long your bike can sit before it won't start. Now normally you won't have a problem because most people put their bikes on a trickle charger, but this right here can teach you how to choose a battery that's good enough for the different things that you may have on your bike. You know, I have an amp, I have air ride, I have a couple other things, an alarm system. You know, these things are draining the bike, you know, to a certain degree while the key is in the off position. So when you go to look for a battery, you want to check these specifications. You want to get a battery that may have a higher amp hour, you know, maybe 12, 14, higher cold cranking amps. You know, instead of 180, you might get 210, 240, something like that. You may go from a lead based battery. Now, as you can see, the battery on my right is a lithium. The battery on my left is a lead based battery. You can see the difference. I know it's kind of hard. I'm just trying to show you. You can see the difference. I mean, left side, the amp hours is 10. Right side, the amp hours is 14. Left side, the cold cranking amps is 180. Right side, cold cranking amps is 210. You know, dimensions of the battery is a lot smaller, lighter weight, still a 12 volt. You know, I'm just thinking that these lithium batteries is the way to go, guys. Give you a little close up of the lead based battery, and then come back over here to the lithium ion battery. So when choosing a battery, you want to make sure that the cold cranking amps is high enough for the accessories that you have on your bike. Make sure that the amp hours is high enough for the accessories you have on your motorcycle. By the way, the bike that I'm currently diagnosing is a 2004 GSXR 1000. Alright guys, I hope this helped you. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever you feel. Subscribe. I'll keep doing videos as long as you guys need them. Alright.